Title of the video: Checkmate. It is finished. And why? Because that's it. Antichrist system is down already, and it's because of revelation, and all the glory goes to the Lord Jesus, and it's because of God's love and honor to me that He is giving me this to share with the world. And yeah, this is a declaration that within less than a month everything will be different, and the whole world will see that Antichrist system the whole world will be different. But here in Australia, everything will shift dramatically, and yeah, just that's what I believe, and that's what I know will happen. Before I go further, I'm going to share with you just like a snapshot, or a screenshot of the essays and applications I sent to the International Court of Justice, and writ of summons I sent to the High Court of Australia, and yeah, and the Supreme Court, and the application to the Supreme Court as well in the US. But yeah, so these are the titles. You will see you'll see them. These are the titles on of the essays and applications and all that. But here in this video, I will probably just read 3 of them. I will start with the first one will be the writ of summons to the High Court of Australia, and the other one I will read is the application letter to the Supreme Court of the United States. Let's start with the writ of summons to the High Court of Australia. You will be able to see. You'll be able to read all these documents online. I'm going to be providing like all the links. I'll upload them publicly online and provide the links for them. But now just hear me for if you want, up to you. But yeah, in the High Court of Australia, writ of summons to the Registrar of the High Court of Australia, I, Samir of 91 Lakey Street, Southern River, WA 6110, do hereby institute this action against the High Court of Australia, and I do hereby make this writ of summons, and I do hereby pray for relief as follows. Particulars of claim. 1. The Constitution of Australia is invalid and of no effect due to its inherent ambiguity and subjectivity. 2. The ambiguity of the Constitution's provisions undermines its authority as the highest law in the land. Number 3. The current system of governance, which is based on a complex interplay between the Commonwealth, states, and external co-ruling partners, is conducive to the growth of crime and lawlessness. Number 4. A new system of governance led by one king who has sovereign rule in the nation is necessary to provide clear authority and a unified approach to governance. Statement of claim. The Constitution of Australia is a flawed document that has failed to provide a clear and effective system of governance for the country. The ambiguity of its provisions has led to confusion and uncertainty, and has undermined the authority of the Constitution as the highest law in the land. The current system of governance, which is based on a complex interplay between the Commonwealth, states, and external co-ruling partners, is conducive to the growth of crime and lawlessness. This system has failed to provide clear authority and a unified approach to governance, and has led to a breakdown in law and order. Furthermore, the ambiguity of the Constitution's provisions has led to a deadlock in the system of governance, where different interpretations of the Constitution's provisions can lead to conflicting laws and regulations. This deadlock has resulted in confusion and uncertainty, and has undermined the authority of the Constitution as the highest law in the land. For example, the instatement of women as police officers can be considered an internal affair, and thus a contradiction in the current laws of the land. However, this creates a deadlock, as the laws of the state regarding the role of women in the police force are inconsistent with the Commonwealth's laws, and there is no clear authority to resolve the issue. Claim for relief. I claim that the High Court of Australia has no jurisdiction over this matter, but I seek a declaration from the court that: number 1. The Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia is a dud framework of governance, and therefore the High Court of Australia has no jurisdiction over this matter. Number 2. Notwithstanding the above, I seek a declaration from the High Court that ASIC and ASX are not legitimate organizations or bodies, as they are not established by any valid and constitutional laws of the Commonwealth of Australia. Number 3. The Australian Securities and Investments Commission Act 2001 and the Australian Securities Exchange Act 2001 are nullities, and they are not authorized by any valid and constitutional laws of the Commonwealth of Australia. 4. I seek a declaration that the Australian government is illegitimate. 5. Cancels of registered bodies, businesses and organizations within Australia, including the High Court of Australia. 6. Invalidates all laws, regulations and policies issued by the Australian government. 7. The current system of governance is conducive to the growth of crime and lawlessness. 8. A new system of governance led by one king who has sovereign rule in the nation is necessary to provide clear authority and a unified approach to governance. 9. The establishment of a trust fund to hold the $3 trillion security funds registered in the United States as a Form 18A security entity. Number 10. The appointment of myself, Samir Boulos, as trustee to manage the trust fund. 11. The transfer of the $3 trillion funds from the Australian government's accounts to the trust fund. Number 12. The distribution of the $3 trillion funds to Amir Salama as compensation for the harm he suffered. Verification. I, Samir Boulos, do hereby verify that the contents of this writ of summons are true and accurate to the best of my knowledge and belief. And the date was yesterday when I sent this, and yeah, so most people will be hearing this and like, what are you on about? But I am on. Of course with this application I submitted mathematical proofs and all that stuff. So yeah, before you make a judgment quickly, it's all there. The other thing I will read now is the application letter to the Supreme Court of the United States. Dear Honorable Justices, I am writing to request that the Supreme Court of the United States take immediate action to address the grave and imminent threat posed by the stock market's continued operation. As demonstrated by the attached mathematical proof, the stock market's regulatory framework is riddled with contradictions and catch-22 situations that render it illegitimate and illegal. The propositional logic analysis reveals that the stock market's functioning is unsustainable and perpetuates a cycle of deceit and corruption. The infinite importance of this issue cannot be overstated, as it threatens the very fabric of the global economic system. I respectfully request that the Supreme Court of the United States take the following actions. First, declare the stock market's continued operation to be unlawful and unconstitutional. Second, order the immediate cessation of all stock market activities. Cessation or cessation. Direct the relevant authorities to take steps to rectify the contradictions and flaws in the stock market's regulatory framework. The continued operation of the stock market poses a significant risk to the stability of the global economy and the well-being of citizens worldwide. I urge the court to take swift action to address this critical issue. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, Samir Amir Selim Boulos. I think there is something else I should read for you guys before one more thing that yeah, okay, maybe I should just read for you the last application I sent to the International Court of Justice, which is the illegitimacy of the United Nations and the State of Israel, a scientific and mathematical analysis. Yeah, so let me read that one. Alright, application to the International Court of Justice in the matter of the legitimacy of the United Nations and the State of Israel. To the Honorable Judges of the International Court of Justice, the undersigned, Samir Amir Selim Boulos, respectfully submits this application to the International Court of Justice for a declaratory judgment on the legitimacy of the United Nations and the State of Israel. Jurisdictional note. The applicant acknowledges that the ICJ is a part of the UN system and may not have jurisdiction over the matter presented in this application, given the inherent contradictions and paradoxes within the UN's foundational documents and official definitions. However, the applicant respectfully submits that the ICJ, as a prominent international judicial body, has a moral and intellectual obligation to acknowledge and declare the truths and facts presented in this application, regardless of its jurisdictional limitations. Request for a public declaration. In light of the above, the applicant respectfully requests that the ICJ issue a public declaration acknowledging the illegitimacy of the UN and its derivative bodies, including the State of Israel, based on the inherent contradictions and paradoxes within its foundational documents and official definitions. The applicant seeks a declaration of the following truths and facts. First, the United Nations is an invalid and unlawful organization due to its inherent contradictions and paradoxes. Second, the State of Israel is a derivative body of the UN and lacks legitimacy and sovereignty. The third, the occupation of the Palestinian territories by the State of Israel is unlawful and must be ceased. Additional request for a declaration. The applicant respectfully requests that the ICJ declare its own dissolution as a part of the UN system and recognize the need for a new independent and legitimate international judicial body to be established in its place. Supporting document. Attached to this application is a thorough essay titled The Illegitimacy of the United Nations and the State of Israel, a scientific and mathematical analysis. This essay provides a detailed explanation of the inherent contradictions and paradoxes within the UN's foundational documents and official definitions, using scientific and mathematical principles to prove beyond any shadow of doubt that the UN and its derivative bodies, including the State of Israel, are invalid and unlawful. The essay demonstrates that the UN's decision-making process is flawed, using graph theory and game theory to show that the veto power of the permanent members of the Security Council creates a cycle of dependencies, making it impossible to reach a consensus in certain situations. The essay also uses mathematical logic to prove that the UN's accountability and enforcement mechanisms are inconsistent, relying on voluntary cooperation and diplomacy to enforce its decisions. Furthermore, the essay provides a thorough analysis of the UN's foundational documents and official definitions using mathematical and scientific principles to demonstrate that they are inherently contradictory and paradoxical. The essay concludes that the UN and its derivative bodies, including the State of Israel, are invalid and unlawful, and that a new independent and legitimate international judicial body is needed to promote truth, justice, and accountability. Recommendations. The ICJ should declare the UN and its derivative bodies, including the State of Israel, to be invalid and unlawful. The ICJ should also declare its own dissolution as a part of the UN system and recognize the need for a new independent and legitimate international judicial body to be established in its place. Conclusion. The applicant respectfully submits that the ICJ has a moral and intellectual obligation to acknowledge and declare the truth and facts presented in this application, regardless of its jurisdictional limitations. The applicant seeks a public declaration acknowledging the illegitimacy of the UN and its derivative bodies, including the State of Israel, and recognizing the need for a new independent and legitimate international judicial body to be established. Respectfully submitted, Samir Bulus. And yeah, that's that is about it. If you wish to go and have a look for the scientific and mathematical analysis and proofs and all that, it's all going to be online. But yeah, basically the whole system now is waiting just for people to see things for what they are, to believe. There is no government in Australia now, literally. There is no government, there is no basis for the government, there is no basis for court orders, there is no basis for bank accounts, there is no everything registered, everything in the country. No one, there is nothing to uphold justice in this land. If you have a bill, for example, that you haven't paid, or even if you get taken to court to pay it, who is going to enforce that? The whole system is built on nothing. The government and the whole thing is built on nothing. And this is by extension, not only here, other countries. You can go on and do more investigation into that. But basically, yeah. Tomorrow I'm going to send the last email and the last application and email to the Supreme Court, and it is regarding two things. The first is the banking system itself, the whole banking system, and the second thing is Google and other IT companies, because if the servers of Google stop working, the Google Play services stop working, that's the whore. That is the whore that sits on many waters. Android phones, the Google operating system, on many waters, and you know, just not. God keeps reminding me of a vision He gave me when He first called me in 2012. And the vision is about a deadlock that's going to happen in the system that will bring the whole thing down. This deadlock already happened by revelation. I already saw it, I already know it, it's exposed now. There is a deadlock in the whole system of Antichrist. Basically, checkmate. You try and go this way, this way is no way from this way, no way from that way, you're stuck. And that's the system of Antichrist coming down. and only God could do that. Only God's wisdom and mind and greatness is able to bring this system down from within. Imploding, the system is imploding from within, using its own laws and systems and policies, you know. And that's what I said like long time ago when I started making videos. I think in the very first video I said God told me Jesus conquered death, conquered death through conquered the power of death through death. So the same way he did this is he destroyed the power that this system has over people through the system itself. And yeah, it's unbelievable. And what is coming next is the quantum law of God. What is the quantum law of God? It's the kingdom of God ruling. And what is the kingdom of God ruling? It's simple. It's that the decision lies in the unknown, the decision of something, and that's why there is a king. A king, that means the decision of something is based on the king and only the king, and only the king. And it's an unknown. It's up to him. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I'll have compassion on whom I will have compassion. And the whole thing is really going back to the, I think it's Habakkuk. What does the Lord want of you, O man, but to love mercy, to do justly, and to walk humbly with your God? And yeah, when there is let me just read one last thing. If you're still around, I don't know, probably most of you are gone, but yeah, this last one is the, I think it's the first essay I wrote, which is The Uncertain Foundation of Australian Law. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So the uncertain foundation of Australian law, a challenge to the High Court. The Australian Constitution is widely regarded as the highest law in the land, providing the foundation for the country's governance and legal system. However, a closer examination of the Constitution reveals a fundamental flaw. Its provisions are inherently ambiguous and subject to interpretation. This ambiguity undermines the Constitution's authority, rendering it an uncertain foundation for building other laws. To illustrate this point, let us consider the instatement of women as police officers. Can it be argued that this is an internal affair and thus a contradiction in the current laws of the land? Section 51 XXIX of the Australian Constitution grants the Commonwealth's Parliament the power to make laws with respect to external affairs. However, it can be argued that the presence of women in the police office is a matter of internal affairs, and therefore the Commonwealth's Parliament does not have the power to make laws regulating the role of women in the police force. Furthermore, Section 109 of the Constitution states that when a law of a state is inconsistent with a law of the Commonwealth, the latter shall prevail. However, if the laws of the states regarding the role of women in the police force are inconsistent with the Commonwealth's laws, it creates a deadlock or catch-22 scenario. The woman police officer is caught between the conflicting laws of the state and the Commonwealth. To model this framework, we can use chaos theory mathematics. The butterfly effect, a concept in chaos theory, suggests that small changes in initial conditions can lead to drastically different outcomes. In the context of the Constitution, the ambiguity of its provisions can be seen as a small change in initial conditions that can lead to drastically different interpretations and outcomes. Using the Lorentz attractor, a mathematical model that exhibits chaotic behavior, we can represent the Constitution's provisions as a set of differential equations. The Lorentz attractor is characterized by its sensitivity to initial conditions, which can lead to drastically different outcomes. In this model, the Constitution's provisions can be represented as a set of differential equations that describe the behavior of the system. The ambiguity of the provisions can be represented as a small change in initial conditions that can lead to drastically different outcomes. And I'm just putting down some equations down there. These equations describe the behavior of the system, where x, y, and z represent the state of the system. The parameters alpha, beta, blah represent the ambiguity of the Constitution's provisions. Using these equations, we can simulate the behavior of the system and observe the sensitivity to initial conditions. Small changes in the initial conditions can lead to drastically different outcomes, illustrating the ambiguity of the Constitution's provisions. The consequences of the flawed Constitution. The inherent flaw of the Constitution has far-reaching consequences, particularly in the realm of crime control. The ambiguity of the Constitution's provisions creates a lack of clear authority, leading to a fragmented and ineffective approach to crime control. The current system of governance, which is based on a complex interplay between the Commonwealth, states, and external co-ruling partners, such as the King or Queen of England and the Governor General, creates a chaotic and unpredictable environment. This environment is conducive to the growth of crime, as individuals and groups take advantage of the ambiguity and uncertainty of the system. The lack of clear authority and the fragmented approach to crime control have led to a rise in crime rates and a sense of lawlessness in Australian society. The current system is unable to effectively curb or control crime, and the behavior of the system will increasingly become chaotic unless a new system of governance is instated. A new system of governance. The only system of governance that would work is a closed system led by one figure who has sovereign rule in the nation. This figure must be a good king who loves mercy, does justly, and governs pragmatically. A good or one, whatever. A closed system with no external co-ruling partners would provide clear authority and a unified approach to governance. This would enable the effective control of crime and the creation of a just and peaceful society. The good king would be responsible for making laws and enforcing them without the need for external approval or validation. This would eliminate the ambiguity and uncertainty of the current system, creating a clear and predictable environment for individuals and groups to operate within. The challenge to the High Court. We challenge the High Court to consider the following questions. Can the instatement of women as police officers be considered an internal affair and thus a contradiction in the current laws of the land? Does the ambiguity of the Constitution's provisions undermine its authority as the highest law in the land? If the Constitution's provisions are inherently uncertain and subject to interpretation, can the laws built atop it be considered valid and enforceable? Is the current system of governance, which is based on a complex interplay between the Commonwealth, states, and external co-ruling partners, conducive to the growth of crime and lawlessness? Would a new system of governance led by one king who has sovereign rule in the nation provide a more effective and just approach to governance? Conclusion. The Australian Constitution's ambiguity and subjectivity undermine its authority as the highest law in the land. The challenge to the High Court highlights the uncertainty and potential invalidity of laws built atop the Constitution. We urge the High Court to consider the implications of this uncertainty and the potential deadlock it creates in the judicial system. The inherent flaw in the Constitution has far-reaching consequences, particularly in the realm of crime control. The only solution is to instate a new system of governance led by one king who has sovereign rule in the nation. This would provide clear authority and a unified approach to governance, enabling the effective control of crime and the creation of a just and peaceful society. And yeah, that's it. And who is that king? I already told you what God told me. That king is myself, and not to brag, not to anything, but yeah, that's me.